Darren, you may begin.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining this month's Informatica Cloud webinar. We've got, as always, some content that we want to share with you, and we're particularly excited to have Alex Bates with us from Gorkhana, who's going to be taking us through a case study of how they've tackled some of the data management challenges with Informatica Cloud. So let's jump right in. Today's agenda, I wanted to start off with just a little bit of an overview of some of the challenges we've seen organizations face, and then really the issues that they confront when it comes to data quality and adoption, and really with the goal of trying to really get the most out of their Salesforce.com investment. And we're going to zero in on some of the particular pains for marketing as well as sales operations. Then we're going to provide you with a quick introduction to Informatica Cloud's Master Data Management solution, which is a new solution we're very excited to be bringing to the market. And then Alex and Dina are going to be walking through a case study and sharing some best practices and experiences along the way. We want to leave plenty of time as well to show you Informatica Cloud MDM and really zero in on that marketing ROI use case. So that's our agenda. With that, I think we should just get going. So let's talk about the audience, the people on this call. You're all either invested or investing in Salesforce.com. It's the recognized market leader for customer relationship management. Just a fantastic product and a partner of Informatica's. Now, what we see as a marketer, I can tell you this is something I deal with every day, is when you're running Salesforce, you're not alone. You've got all kinds of data coming in and data coming out, and it's very important to think through the data management requirements early and often. So first of all, you've got data coming in from external systems. You often have situations where you're doing manual entry, where you might have gone to a trade show and you've got a list of data, and your first consideration is, hey, let's just load this into Salesforce. Now, of course, many organizations like ours would also use a marketing automation system, which represents another application that you need to integrate with Salesforce. Then you've got, of course, web to lead. All the people on your website, you want to be able to capture these and respond quickly to their requirements and requests. You've got the fact that your business is generally growing. You've got more and more data volumes. If you're doing well and you're really trying to maximize your Salesforce experience, you're bringing more and more data into this solution, into this system, and making sure that it's relevant, timely, and accurate for the end users. And then finally, let's talk about marketers. Again, it's not just lists, but it could be third-party data that you're bringing in to augment Salesforce with data from other sources. So these are the typical day in, day out challenges or requirements you have when it comes to Salesforce and all the data that might be coming in. Now, some of the challenges that we hear every day from our customers, and we'll talk about with Alex today and how they've handled this at Gorkhana, is you've got inconsistencies of the data. You've got the fact that over time, you might not necessarily trust the data, or you might have different views of the data. And this is a common challenge we hear about, is that organizations don't have a single view. We talk to many customers that not only have one instance of Salesforce, they have many, and just trying to get a single view across the Salesforce systems, let alone bringing data in from other applications, is a challenge in and of itself. Of course, marketers are always, they need to justify everything they do. You need to have an ROI on everything you do. It's a very analytical time that we live in, and being able, putting marketing dollars towards an event without seeing an ROI is no longer an option. You've got duplicate data, and then one of the main challenges we hear all the time from Salesforce customers is adoption is not where we want it to be. How are we going to get our users? How do we draw them in? Is it a carrot or is it a stick? We got to get users adopting and loving the system. Sometimes it's a process issue, sometimes it's a technology issue, but it's always a data issue. So what ends up happening, and we've seen this time and time again, where a lack of trust starts to develop if these issues aren't dealt with. And it's really critical that you trust the data in the system, because that's what's going to lead to the ROI and the adoption. So I'm sure this is all very familiar. Many of you are out there nodding your heads saying, yeah, these are the challenges we face. I know. So let's talk about our approach to addressing these. So Informatica Cloud has long been recognized as really the premier integration solution for Salesforce. We've really specialized on connecting Salesforce to other systems, and Informatica Cloud integration has been recognized 4 years in a row as the top integration solution on the App Exchange. So that's been great. We've really now taken this to the next level by adding cloud master data management capabilities to our platform. And Informatica Cloud MDM is a new solution that's 100% built on the Force.com platform. So when you talk about adoption, what you really want is something that's living right within the Salesforce CRM environment or the Force.com environment, and that's what Informatica Cloud MDM represents. So it's powered by Informatica Cloud integration in terms of the connectivity, and it's been recognized already as a leader and really a cool vendor by Gartner. So in the last 3 months, Informatica moved to acquire a company that we had been partnering with called DataScout. So some of you on the call today might have heard of DataScout. DataScout had been really doing some great innovative things with Salesforce, and we're excited to now be bringing DataScout to market as Informatica Cloud MDM. So with that, I'm going to bring Dina into the conversation, who is really our subject matter expert on Informatica Cloud MDM, and we're going to start talking through some real-world scenarios, and she'll be interviewing Alex to share with you what they've done over at Gorkhana. So Dina, over to you.
So, yeah, fantastic. So a lot of the issues that many customers we encounter come across are getting that single customer view in their Salesforce org. As you demonstrated before, you can see that you've got data in multiple locations, multiple systems, and each one shares a different variation of the truth about your customer. So one system is really good at tracking one bit of information, and Salesforce is really good at tracking customer contact information, and never shall the two meet. So what we're offering is a solution that enables you to bring in that data using the Informatica Cloud integration, but then once it's in the Salesforce org, how do you protect your Salesforce org from duplicates, from bad data, and from conflicts between systems? And that's where the full MDM solution, along with integration, provides you that protection, not only at point of entry, but on an ongoing basis as well. Now, one customer that we've been working with is Gorkhana, who are a leading PR business who've been users of Salesforce mostly for managing their sales cycle in isolation. Alex Bates, who's the head of channel marketing there, has joined us today to talk us through how they used Informatica Cloud to extend their usage of Salesforce and prevent the big challenges that many businesses encounter when trying to get a single view of their customers. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go into your challenges, tell us a bit about Gorkhana, a bit of background information about your business.
Yes, of course. So Gorkhana is, as Dean mentioned, is a leading provider to the PR and marketing community. And I guess what that specifically means is we have a number of solutions that help PRs and marketers send their content and send their press releases to the correct target audiences, monitor where they're being mentioned in social, mainstream, and broadcast media, and then analyze and understand what's going on, but also how they can change their strategy going forward. So we're a key tool to the kind of full workflow of the PR marketing process, and obviously strong in social media as well as mainstream broadcast media. But based in London, but we've also got offices in New York as well. So we work on both sides of the Atlantic, as well as having a big focus in Europe.
Great. So how did your business start to use Salesforce? How did that link to how your business runs?
Yeah, so we've grown through acquisition over the last 3 years. So we've had 2 significant acquisitions starting in 2009 and one in 2010. Which has brought together these kind of 3 leading services. And I guess the initial focus really was about giving us better visibility of the sales opportunities across the business, but also having a consistent platform across the 3 businesses that came together to understand where the sales opportunities were. So it's very much about a pipeline management tool than it was about having a full view of our customers. That absolutely wasn't the initial focus. And what that really meant in real terms is we took the information off the 3 or 4 back office systems that we used, and particularly our pipeline systems that we had, and we imported that information into Salesforce, and then obviously required our sales guys to use it as a sales pipeline tool. Because the big downside of that is that the data went out of date the day we uploaded it, and that really drove to a really bad adoption, I'd say, from the sales team. So we didn't have that mantra of if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. The sales guys had no better visibility of our relationship with customers, who was meeting customers, and it really was a tool that sat outside every other system, and so people were also required to fill in more than one system with the same information. As this was possibly for about 8 months, and I guess as the months dragged on, the usage got less and less, and there was less belief in it having any benefit to the business.
That's not an uncommon issue. And what was the original layout? How was it originally placed? We've got a diagram here showing how you were bringing in the data in Salesforce. So why was this a problem?
Yeah, so this was the original format that we used. So the inputs, there obviously are what we call our systems, but basically the information was captured in our customer systems. Our customer systems in each of the organizations were also our production systems, so they weren't CRM systems at all. We took all the information that we thought was relevant from those live systems. We did a lot of manual work behind the scenes to try and bring some of that information together from a single customer perspective, and then we pushed that into Salesforce. What I would say is that manual process literally was a manual process of people sitting down looking at accounts. So there was with hindsight a huge amount of error and issues with that, and it was also massively time consuming. And as I said, it went out the day that it went live. We also only moved across a very small number of contacts. So we only moved across the contacts within live opportunities. So actually, in terms of going out and trying to cross-sell any opportunities, none of that information sat within Salesforce. And so the piece on the right-hand side of the slide with the additional inputs was some of the work that we did to try and address that, and that was really forcing in, I guess, some contact data we had, but we were holding contact data in databases as well, offline databases as well as the customer bases that are linked on there. So it was very much trying to get Salesforce as a tool that would be useful from a reporting pipeline perspective, without a lot of consideration of what would be useful from the business, both in terms of from a sales perspective, but also in terms of a marketing or a customer retention perspective.
Take us through the type of accounts that you're dealing with. So your business objective was to get a single customer view, but who are your main customers? Who are you interacting with?
Yeah, so our customers are PR professionals or marketers, and that's either in-house, so corporate PRs or marketers, or through agencies, so PR agencies and marketing agencies, creative agencies. And I guess that adds an added confusion to some of our data. So actually, one of the problems we had with the whole project was, as soon as we kind of looked under the bonnet of what our data looked like, there was a lot of confusion and a lot of inherent internal knowledge about how our business sat together, as opposed to it being available through the data sets that we had. So we service customers either directly, or we service some of the corporate organizations through agencies, and so there is in some cases relationships there through effectively through a supplier chain, and so it was confusing in that respect. And then obviously we could have customers buying across each piece of the business and different products within each pieces of the business, and that was our challenge. And that was very much what we were trying to address with the trying to get that one business approach. And as I've got there, it was absolutely the case that one of our account directors could be looking after an account, but actually to understand what was going on with that account may need to speak to 5 or 6 people on 5 or 6, or as I said there, 10 databases, just to get the full picture of that information. And a lot of that information, you'd need to ask the right people to find that. So it was very much about having one system, so the account director can, anytime they have a contact with one of our clients, they can have a contact where they've got the knowledge and intelligence to talk about what the client's actually experiencing with us, whether and what recent meetings they've had. So it was about driving those efficiencies. That was a real desire, but the mapping of the data was particularly complex for us.
Now, your business is based on reputation and that relationship, building relationships with your customers. Now, what sort of problems were your end users or your salespeople suffering from if they then had to go to 10 different places to find that customer information?
Yeah, I think one of the key sort of standouts, I guess, USPs for us as an organisation is our relationship with our customers, but also the relationship we build with the community we build with PR professionals, marketing professionals, and bloggers and journalists, and that excellence in customer service is one of the key pieces that has been, I would say, consistent with the three businesses as we came together. Unfortunately, when you bring three businesses together, you're bringing in obviously a lot of sort of cultural changes. You're bringing in a lot of different workflow practices, and although that's a challenge from a company perspective, from a customer perspective, it's not of great interest. And so the real challenge we had was being able to speak to customers, knowing which parts of the business the previous three businesses they'd bought services from, whether they had any issues, who they were meeting from those three parts of the businesses, and how we were servicing, what the issues or what solutions they wanted or needed, or conversations we'd had with them in the past, and how much they were paying for those services. So really having the ability to have those conversations, and without that sort of central point of all that information, what you really have is you have the issues where people will contact a customer perhaps the day after somebody else has contacted the customer and nobody will know that, or customers will phone in asking information about a product we won't know they have, or people phone up about billing or contracts and we won't know the details of that. So it really means that the salespeople and the account management teams, so all customer-facing teams, are going in very blind, and the conversation is being very much led by the customer in respect to them having to kind of try and pre-guess what the questions might be to try and find that information. So it very much puts us on the back foot and makes the conversation very cumbersome for, I think, the customer and for ourselves, and really moves away from that customer experience, which really, as I said, was key to each part of the business individually, and coming together it really is a USP of ours now, and we were very keen to maintain that. There is also one other piece, which is about the business. Obviously, when you bring three businesses together, you want everybody to feel like they belong for the same business and we're all working towards the same goals. And so actually having one consistent system that everybody gets the same information from, I think, is an important internal piece when you go through that acquisition as well. And then, just the other points I put on there is about trusted data and driving Salesforce adoption. But it's also about us being able to recognize opportunity, us being able to react quickly to opportunities, and that trusted point is a key aspect, because it was only really when we did the adoption that we could then finally say, if it isn't in Salesforce, it doesn't exist, and that obviously is one of the big things that drives adoption in Salesforce.
Great. So that takes us quite nicely onto the solution and how you solve that. So we talked about getting the data into Salesforce in the first place, so linking to your back office systems. But then once it made it into Salesforce, how you would ensure that there were no duplicates being created and you got that consolidation of all that data into one single customer view. Can you take us through the process, take us through the connections and where Informatica Cloud fitted in?
Of course. What this diagram is showing is obviously the data flow, if you like. What we did is we moved the data from our back office systems into an Oracle database, which we manage in-house. The reason we did that is because we're still making quite a lot of changes to the back office systems, because as I mentioned before, they're also our production systems, and we were quite keen that we moved the information from a stable environment into Salesforce. So we did actually use Informatica to link two of those databases into our Oracle database. Two we could feed because of some of the previous work that we'd done. So the first piece was to move everything into that stable environment, which is what we did, and then we moved that information the Oracle database is literally a data warehouse of a lot of fairly unconnected information, and then we move that and transform that so we have one single view. So bring the data together across those four. There's actually 5 systems. We've brought data together across 5 systems, so you get one view. So now, if you go and look at one of our customers, you'll see exactly what that customer takes from us across the whole business, rather than 5 versions of that. Obviously, what we needed to do during that process was do quite a big piece of deduplication, and I guess the most complicated piece of that was the contacts, because it wouldn't be unfeasible to have 5 or 6 records with the same contact going into Salesforce through the back office systems. And so we have transferred the data through Informatica. It goes into Salesforce. I'm not sure technically exactly how it works, but it goes into Salesforce, and obviously using the data scout solution, we then find duplicate records, which we have set parameters on to allow us to recognize duplicates, which we then merge together, and then that information is fed back into the data warehouse, so we don't have an upload of duplicate data every evening, which is when we do our run.
So you're
it effectively gives us clean data.
Salesforce org. Sorry to
yes,
interrupt
that's right.
you, but you're deduplicating in your Salesforce org and then taking back that clean data and sending it back to your source systems as well. So you're essentially cleaning both systems at the same time.
We're cleaning effectively the data warehouse rather than the full back office system. So the data warehouse is holding cleaner product, because we're using unique identifiers which we're pulling back from Salesforce once effectively it's been the data has been merged using your solution.
So that means your end users just have to go into Salesforce to see everything they need to know about their customers. They don't have to go back to their source systems any longer.
No, absolutely. So from a customer perspective, from as in my customers, so from our customer facing staff perspective, what they do is they can go into Salesforce, be very confident that if they look at an account, they're looking at the account and understanding how that links to any other accounts or any other bits of business we have across the organisation. They can also look at obviously everything you can in Salesforce, but significantly a clean database of the contacts linked to that account. And that also means that from a marketing perspective, we can be much more targeted with the type of content that we are communicating with our customers for. So it gives us very quick access to clean data, which is obviously what our main objective was, so that we could fulfill a lot of what we were trying to do.
Now, I know
the
hierarchies
other 2 bits
are
on there.
very important. Sorry, go on. The other aspect of what you're working on is hierarchies are pretty important with getting that single view of a customer, particularly since your business interacts with many parts of an organization. So tell me about how this has helped your sales and marketing teams get that single view and sort of know the difference between the various elements that they're interacting with.
Yeah, well, I think the challenge for us is depending on the, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot of companies, but depending on the organisation, the buying, and particularly B2B problem, but the buying structure within an organisation can be very different from one organisation to another. And so we have some customers where who buy our product at a corporate level, or maybe global level, and we have customers who will buy it at a divisional or regional level. And understanding those interactions and how those products sit across those businesses, and therefore understanding their buying process is a key thing for us to be able to drive revenue and recognise cross-sell and upsell opportunities. And so we have, within Salesforce, we have a hierarchy tool which allows us to see any interaction. So it could be a global organisation, we'd have as an account, but then within that global organisation, as a child of those, we can have a visual view of the other accounts that we're working for, who those contacts are within the account, what products they're taking, how they interact with the products at a global level. So effectively allows us to build a map of that organisation, and therefore build quite a lot of intelligence in terms of how their buying works. And we obviously use that in how we approach our customers. So that was a key part, but because of the sort of reseller style program we have through the agencies that we work with. It's also interesting to know how those agencies sit together and how some of the corporate accounts that we service actually sit under agencies and making those links. So our data is quite interlinked, and seeing those connections is very key to who we communicate and what we communicate to them.
Great. So what's next for Gorkhana?
So I think we've achieved a lot of what we set out at the first stage. But if I'm totally honest, I wouldn't say it was a full CRM system. We have a lot of customer-facing staff who currently don't have access because of the nature of what their role is. I think the next stage for us is very much making sure that Salesforce delivers to our business objectives, and rather than us being slightly slave to the way we've implemented Salesforce. So we built a lot of momentum in this stage of the project that we did. We want to continue that momentum, but really turn it into a proper CRM tool where we're using it to manage prospects, engage customers, and obviously retain customers through a structured journey, I guess, and ensuring that we provide them with the information that they need. More than anything, though, it's about us understanding the right products for the right customers, and us to continue to deliver excellence in customer service. That's always been a real focus for us.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex, for that. That is very good to hear a customer's experiences and how they've tackled these challenges. And it's great to hear you utilizing tools like Cloud MDM and Cloud Integration to get that single view of the customer and ensure that you've got those hierarchies and that relationship in Salesforce. So what I'm going to be covering next is actually how this works in the Salesforce org and take you through certain elements of that functionality in Salesforce. So I'll be demoing particularly the hierarchy functionality and that consolidation of the data from the back office systems. So if I just share my screen now.
And so Dina, I just wanted to come back in. Alex, thanks for that overview. There's some questions coming in that I think, Dina, you're gonna address as you go through. Some questions about how Informatica Cloud MDM handles some of the deduplication. There's also a good question about, is the right approach to stage everything in a data warehouse first, or can you put it all into the Informatica Cloud environment? And we can follow up on that one because it's really going to depend on what it is you're trying to do. But as you'll see here, the Informatica Cloud MDM solution is a native Force.com solution, so everything Dina is going to be showing you is on the Force.com platform.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So, taking us back to the deduplication process, so there are multiple ways that the Cloud MDM solution can help you manage duplicates in your Salesforce org. Now, here we have an org of an organization that sell to fast food chains. Slightly different from the Gorkhana use case. However, the similarities lie in the fact that this business deals with multiple subsidiaries of organizations. They're a global business. They're trying to track all the information they need about their relationship with the customers, and they have information about their customers in multiple back office systems. So in this use case, we've got a business that has an integration with SAP. They've got an integration with a service management solution like Remedy, and they've also got data that they've purchased from the likes of Dun & Bradstreet or Data.com. So all the examples that we've talked about, they've got so many different variations of the truth that they're trying to rationalize. Now, one key thing that the Cloud MDM solution firstly helps you with is standardize all the variations of country, for example, in your org, so that you're starting with a clean foundation for your data. So if we just refresh this org after we've run a standardization job on the org, you can see that it's taken all these variations of country, United States, USA, UK, United Kingdom, and just built that single view of a country. So once you've got the single view of the basic information about your customer, you can start to work on the other elements like the contact information, annual revenue year to date, and pipeline information. Now, if we just take us through one of the customers and one of the key bits of information about our customer, we can start to see an example of how Gorkhana, for example, brought in data from external systems and consolidated it to get that single view of their customer. Now, in this use case, we're integrating directly with our back office systems. So, but in Gorkhana's use case, they chose to take the approach of having a data warehouse. Now, dependent on how your business runs, it's entirely up to you. So we have a special view here about our account, which is a consolidated view. And just before we go into that, key bits of information that you could be getting about your customer from back office systems include financial information like total revenue year to date. Now, there's something to be said about when you're managing opportunities or managing sales in Salesforce, this only gives you a screenshot of what you're working on currently. But what about the information like historical transactions or data that's coming in from acquisitions or mergers with other businesses? How do you get all that data into one single view? Another aspect is you might be interacting with your customer using other systems. You might not have everything only in Salesforce. So how do you get that service information so that your end users, which could be your salespeople or your marketing people, can start to segment their data in the right way, make key decisions, and then get ROI from all that data that you've been accumulating? So let's go into the consolidated view. Now, what you'll see here is just a screenshot or a little view of all the endpoints that we're connecting with our Salesforce org. Now, what we've got here, we've got contact information, but we've also got data coming in from SAP, bringing in total revenue year to date and annual contract volume, as well as other installed products that this customer might have. We've also got Remedy that's bringing in things like number of open tickets and annual contract volume. And then we've got data coming in from Dun & Bradstreet, filling in number of employees and postcodes. Now, what we want to do is consolidate this information, but most importantly, manage the conflicts. Now, one thing that Alex talked about was that you had multiple variations about your interaction with a customer. So what you would want to do is at field level control which variations are going to be your master record. So for example, with SAP, we want the total revenue year to date to win over any other version of that truth. But for example, with Dun & Bradstreet, we want the postcode to win over any other version of the truth. So now we can consolidate this record together. What you'll see is that the Cloud MDM solution manages this automatically for you. These are fields that you can set and you can control, but you don't have to worry about it once you've set it the first time. Now, if we go back to our McDonald's North America account, what you'll see is that the total revenue year to date has been updated as per SAP. Installed products have been updated from SAP, and then all the service information has been updated from Remedy. Finally, company profile has been updated from Dun & Bradstreet. So we've got that single view of our customer in one single account. Now, we can go back to actually run this on the whole org, and what I've done is just run it on one account, but now you can run this on the whole org, and this could be run on a scheduled basis. So every time you have that integration with your back office systems, this data is automatically consolidated within the accounts. And the other thing that we want to factor into this, and another thing that Alex mentioned, was that you might be dealing with a business at multiple levels. So in this example, McDonald's North America is just one faction of a much larger corporation. And standard Salesforce hierarchy capabilities allows you to build that relationship. However, what you can't do is build multiple levels of hierarchy. So if you've got a more complex hierarchy relationship, you'd want to factor that into your org. Also, you don't have the ability to roll up values and run reports on this hierarchy relationship. So what we're going to do is actually run the hierarchy job. And this is a process that's running within the Cloud MDM solution that runs automatically, built on either logic from Dun & Bradstreet or internal logic that you apply dependent on how you're interacting with your customers. And now if we go back to our account and find our McDonald's North America account, what you'll see here is now we've actually got this built hierarchy in place within our record. Now this is great. We can see every element of the McDonald's corporation. We've got links to each account, and this can be rolled up and rolled down, and we can actually control how many levels of hierarchy we have here. But the key element that we want to focus on is if we go back to our dashboard and refresh it. Now, the key thing that we want to focus on here is that not only have we built the hierarchy within the individual record, but we're able to roll up with reporting capabilities within Salesforce using the McDonald's Corporation Ultimate Parent account. We can roll up a total value of opportunities year to date. So that means that you can take every single interaction with your customer, be it via opportunities, cases, either employee numbers, whatever total roll-up value you want to achieve, and use the Cloud MDM hierarchy functionality to get a total single view of your customer. This will then enable you to look at the white spaces with that interaction, see where you're doing well, factor into how you want to build future interactions, and leverage existing relationships globally. Now, we've organized this by country, but this could be organized based on product type that you're working on. Whatever your interaction is with your customer, you can get that single view of your customer. And if we go back to our dashboard just finally, you can see now we've got revenue year-to-date interaction thanks to our integration with the back-office system. We've got a clean single view of our customers, and we are also duplicate-free. So all of this is how the Cloud MDM solution enables you to get better ROI from your data, enables you to segment information correctly, and actually track with trusted data your interaction with your customers. Thank you very much.
As a great overview, Dina, and demonstration, I'd love to just kind of bring you back into the conversation, Alex, for a few minutes.
Yep.
Particularly on the hierarchy point. There's been a few questions about hierarchies, and I know it's a critical, sometimes a pain and a requirement. Can you talk about how you're managing hierarchies and the impact of that for Gorkhana?
Yeah, I mean, we've had to do a few bits. So we had to do some of the hierarchy work behind the scenes, so bringing customers together. I mean, I guess put it into context, it would be quite feasible in our old systems to look for a customer name and potentially come up with 20 different records with that customer, depending on how they'd set up their product. Because as I mentioned before, they were product systems rather than simply sort of CRM or database systems. So we've done some work in the back office, but we've also used we've adapted. We've adapted. And I obviously can't talk to you about the technical side because that was done by one of the development companies who did some work with us. But we've adapted the hierarchy system within Salesforce so that we now can have a visual view of how the companies link together and what aspect of them link. So whether it's a link from a product perspective, or as I was talking before, it's more about buying. It's the buying culture, I guess, rather than the organizational culture that we're interested in. So we've done that, and then from that we're able to then look at significantly, I guess, the revenue that we're taking from an organization. So it's easy for us to now look at a global organization and think we take this money for them, and actually if we look in detail, this money comes from this part of the organization, and therefore there's opportunity or relationships that we need to build in other areas. So it's really an adaptation of what we have in Salesforce to give us that buying hierarchy rather than the organizational structure for us to link our data together.
Okay, great. That's helpful. And then a question for you, Dina. I think you mentioned some of this already, but you can roll up summary. Can you only roll up summary, or can you roll up information like cases, activities, and other things as part of that?
So anything that's within your Salesforce objects can get rolled up. So we have some examples where I'm rolling up any value that's within the record. As long as you're bringing in that data and it's within Salesforce, you're able to roll up total values. And it's all because the Cloud MDM solution creates the relationships between the accounts and rolls it up to one ultimate parent. So we create the relationship, but whatever data you want to be bringing in, that's what's going to be feeding that information.
Okay, so I'd love to just give you some parting thoughts, or get some parting thoughts from you, Alex, who've kind of gone through this. For others that are kind of where you were before you tackled some of the data quality challenges and kind of started moving in this direction, are there some lessons learned? Are there some things that you would make sure others do if they were in your shoes? I mean, maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we didn't do, which we hadn't anticipated the complexity, was look at the data in more detail before we embarked on the project. I think the complexity of bringing the data together so it was intelligent to us took us a lot longer than we anticipated, and obviously the tools that we've got from you guys has made that possible for us to do. But we just really underestimated mapping all that data together. I think that's the biggest thing. I think if the data works, the solutions are there to get them into Salesforce and just give you the right information. But if you don't get the data right at the front end, then the adoption continues to be a problem, and it makes the whole project quite painful. I think that's my biggest lesson. I think we've had some great support from obviously yourselves and from other companies we work with, and I'm very, very happy with where we are. We deliberately only bit off a small chunk of what we could achieve with Salesforce because we knew that if we did that, we'd see a lot of quick wins, we'd see a lot of business benefits to that, and we could then move on to the next piece of the project, knowing that we were moving on and understand those benefits, rather than pumping effort into something that we still couldn't see how it was going to benefit the organisation. So I think biting off small pieces of the project and delivering those and feeling the benefit of those, and then taking a step back and looking at the project, I think that's a key part to do as well. I guess it's where you are as an organisation, but I'm glad we've done that. But I think the data complexity, it would be wrong to underestimate how difficult that can be.
Okay, that's great. And then can you comment on the adoption difference you've seen since you've gone live with some of this, the deduplication and some of the consolidation capabilities of the Cloud MDM solution?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Adoption, there's always still challenges with adoption. I think that comes from the simple point that a lot of salespeople don't want to put information into the system. So I think there's always a challenge to get everybody to adopt it how I'd like to see it adopted. We, as I said, have changed the mantra that if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. So there's obviously financial penalty to not use it effectively. So that always helps. But I think the biggest thing for me is the amount of the conversations we used to have about Salesforce before we did this project were the issues around the quality of data. The conversations we now have about Salesforce is, wouldn't it be great if it did this, or it'd be really good to be able to find out this information. So it's much more about what Salesforce can now deliver for us rather than any issues. And I think that's probably the biggest sort of turning point. And we definitely look now more at how we can make this more efficient and more effective, and other managers do as well. So I think the adoption is one of those ongoing issues which will always be, I guess, my frustration with sales and sales frustration with me, and we'll always continue to drive that. But absolutely, our mentality has changed, and all our information is in there now. So we are getting the information we want. It's a lot cleaner. Culturally, I think we're much more focused on clean data, and I think that's helped that. So I think adoption has been. I think there's more to do, but I think it's very successful where it is at the moment. And before, so it was very clear. I struggled to get anybody to put anything into Salesforce before when the data was out of date. So we're a million miles from where we were 8 months ago.
I think that is just a fantastic point to sort of wrap with. There's some good technical questions coming in, and we can follow up with people in separate kind of discussions. But just that point about, now your conversations around Salesforce aren't all about, is your data better than my data? Who's got the right answers? Whose reports are the right reports? You're actually now thinking about ways you can take Salesforce to the next level, whether that's maybe Service Cloud or Force.com or other innovations that Salesforce constantly is moving forward with. That's a huge, I think, value proposition that I think it's a good one to leave people with. Do you have anything next in terms of Salesforce rollout? Anything coming down the pike in terms of how you are going to innovate further with the platform?
The next big piece we're looking at is We've got another office to bring on board, so we're doing that. That's a relatively small piece, so that's fine. But the next big piece we're looking at is data visualization. So how we can bring our dashboards effectively to life to give us more instant visibility on where we are, but also tracking changes in pipeline changes, having better awareness of our marketing funnel, if you like. And so yeah, it's more at the moment. It's about data visualizing. We're going to make it look pretty, and then we're going to go back to look at it and see what else we can do. But I think it's giving us the intelligence. So having that intelligence now quick and front of mind, and so everybody can see what's going on. I think that's key, and that aligns obviously very well with our objectives for this year.
Awesome. So let me just hit a couple of the questions that have come in, and then maybe bring you back in, Dina, for some closing thoughts as well. People are asking about pricing for Informatica Cloud MDM, and you can go to informaticacloud.com/editions, and you can look at the different flavors. We do have a deduplication only option, and then a broader full Cloud MDM solution there. We also had a question about, can it work with other CRM systems? Cloud MDM is really focused. It's built on the Force.com platform, so it's built for Salesforce customers. But you could bring in data from other CRM systems, because Informatica Cloud MDM is powered by Informatica's cloud integration capabilities. So you can use all of the breadth of connectivity and take advantage of that as part of your Cloud MDM for Salesforce solution. So Dina, let me just bring it back to you. Anything that you'd want to pass along to others in sales and marketing roles about data quality, Cloud MDM? Just final thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of businesses, we're already tracking information. We're already collecting all that information. Why not ensure that it's in the right place for the right people to action it and make decisions from it? And why not ensure that they can trust that data by ensuring there's no duplicates, that there's no inconsistencies, and that single view of a customer isn't just a buzzword that's flying around. It's so important for you to get that view so that you can start planning future campaigns, future interactions with your customers. And the only way you can do that is by looking back and seeing how well that interaction has taken place in the first place. And it's only then that you can start making key decisions, have scalable growth as a business, and extend the functionality that we know and love from Salesforce.
Awesome. And one point I wanted to make for everyone attending today, Informatica is really well known in the master data management space. We have very strong core technologies in this area, and we've been recognized by industry leaders as really kind of the pioneers and leaders in master data management. What we're really excited about with the Cloud MDM solution is the ability to bring together our core multi-domain Informatica MDM technology and platform with now some very purpose-built solutions for cloud vendors like Salesforce. So it's really an exciting journey for us to move master data management solutions to the cloud, and it's an area that we're continuing to focus on going forward. So with that, we will follow up with some of the folks that have been asking technical questions as we've gone through the webinar. We will be making the presentation and video available online. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us, and special thanks to Alex for taking the time out of your busy day to share your story with us today.
No problems.
And that concludes today's webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again for joining us today. This concludes today's web conference. You may now disconnect.